Welcome back. You're still watching the Afia Morning Show. Thank you for staying tuned. Good morning once again from the east side to the rest of the world. My name is Nathalie Uku, and of course, Oji Wachku is here as well. Oji, good
Hi,
morning.
good morning.
This
morning.
one was not planned.
No.
What happened again today? Who is your spy?
It's my spy.
Yes. Let me start that one first.
Wow.
Let me go on to
attacking me on a Monday.
Yes.
Who is my spy? Nobody's my spy. I think it's God.
It's God.
He just aligns things.
Jesus has taken the wheel this time around. This was
he
not.
should actually. That's what we need in
I
this
should have
country.
tried Gilly.
We'll try that one of these days. Try Gilly and try to the show.
Absolutely not. I would wear the traditional, but I'll leave the Gilly. So I'm going for a function because this camera might not contain the size.
Well, that's the essence. That's the essence. Block everywhere. The Gilly.
Yeah, this one today we'll point left, tomorrow we'll point right. Right, so we'll do that. And we are joined, of course, remotely by Mazi Tochukwu Ezioke, alias Mazi Njenje, the village headmaster, as we react to the biggest story this morning in terms of politics, Obi's new alignment with the NDC. Mazi Njenje, thank you for joining us. Good morning.
Good morning, Oji. Good morning, Natalie. Thank you very much for having me this morning.
So what's the biggest news, Mazi? Let's hear it from you. What's the biggest news, even before we look at what the editors are saying?
Well, you guys are the newsmakers. You tell us what the biggest news is.
You know what I'm talking about, Mazi. Don't act like you don't know what I'm talking about. I gave a hint at the beginning, so tell us.
So the biggest news now is that all the supporters of His Excellency, Mr. Peter Obi, including the village boys, the obedient, the OK movement, we are now in the NDC. Therefore, a lot is going on starting about 15 minutes ago in the party office. And I believe today might be the busiest day the party would ever see. So a lot of people that were in the other parties before now are all now jostling to get positions, elected positions, forms to get into offices. Therefore, today is going to be a very busy day for the party. And I believe we will come to that. Our principal, as you know, took to his Twitter account yesterday to give an extensive report why that decision was made. It has lit the Nigerian social media space as to what that means. A lot of people argue for and others against, but be that as it may, it is a decision that has been welcomed by those who somewhat felt unease with the going-ons in the alliance. Now, Nigerians who believe that a new and a clean slate should be started with are now happy and gearing up for mobilization. Again, when people ask us, how are we going to mobilize? And make a vote to say that the way we've been mobilizing is the way we're going to mobilize. Someone made a tweet this morning, or actually yesterday, jokingly saying that the NDC party on X is about 2,800 followers, and gave a bet that within 24 hours, that account will climb up to 100,000. And what people should know is that every single Twitter account is a human being behind it. So the way we've been called in 2022-23, that we're only 4 in a room tweeting. This time around, we are not only on Twitter, we are also on the streets.
So Mazi, tell us too about your statements, because you released something that almost preempted what we did see when you said that anywhere Obi goes, you waxed your solidarity along with him. So tell us about this, your village boy statement to that effect.
Yes, there was a meeting of the leadership, of the political party, that is the former political party, ADC, and our principal was not in attendance. Kwankwaso was not in attendance, but Kwankwaso excused himself, and tongue started wagging. And as a result of that, because there were things we already know that was going on behind the scene, So within the movement, as the head of that movement, people started talking. It behoves on me to address the movement, to tell them, let's keep calm. But one thing is very clear: let the top echelon in that, make their decision. But rest assured, and when we called a meeting of our, the stakeholders and a general meeting on Friday, everyone agreed that wherever our principal goes, that they are going to go with him. If the content of that is to reassure him. It's not only to the public, but also to reassure him, because we know that he has the burden of a nation under his shoulder, that there is, no matter any decision that he takes, he's going to be criticized. But it's also reassuring to tell him that irrespective of what people tell him, that there are an avalanche of people behind him solidly telling him wherever he goes that they are going to support him. And it's very uncommon, because they are supporting him based on the things that they have seen quite rightly outlined in that statement. So that statement was very clear, unambiguous, to say that wherever he goes, that we're going to go, because we already knew what was about to happen.
Okay, Mazi, I want to ask you this, right? Mr. Peter put out a tweet, him removing himself from ADC and the realignment with NDC. But he says something, right? He said, Atiku Abubakar is not his problem. He doesn't have an issue with him. Same with David Mark. They're his, elder brother. You know how he always, how he always accommodates people, right? With his statements. They are his elder brothers, and they don't have any issue whatsoever. But there's something he said here that is very salient, and I think we have to indulge in it. Calling that same states and its agent that created unnecessary crisis and hostility within Labour Party that forced me to leave now appear to be finding their way into the ADC. Now, moving to the NDC, does this mean that Peter Obi, Kwankwaso, and the Nigerian state, they've tamed the evil that has been pursuing Peter Obi to all these parties and trying to always cause troubles and chaos regarding his ambition?
Now, let me tell you guys one thing I do not believe anyone has said on any of the platforms. If you go to Esther Emo, Twitter handle, the young girl from Akwa Ibom the photographer. If you go to her Twitter handle this morning, you will see something that many of us known for a very long time, but none of us have spoken about it. But now that she's let the cat out of the bag, I will say this in order to just oppose that to your question. Esther this morning yesterday made a revelation that His Excellency tried to register a political party. She's not saying another person, was the one that took the photograph when INEC came for inspection, because they will come and see the place you say you're going to use your party for your party office and whatnot. And INEC refused to register that party. So for those who say, oh, he hasn't done enough, he should have registered his own party, I laugh, because they do not know. Many of us on our own, I repeat, on our own experience, also tried the same thing, and we hit a brick wall. It tells you one thing. If you go back and look at the judgment given by the Supreme Court, when they removed the, antebellum, some people are now calling it antebellum, when they remove antebellum. Now, if you read that part, you will see that after the convention was nullified, that the convention that ratified David Mark as the chairman, the Supreme Court, the apex court of the land, referred that matter again to trial. That part is a huge trap, could balloon any moment. And because the government in power, based on what we did in 2022, 2023, the manner Lagos was one, Rivers was one, and Abuja was one, they swore that this man is not going to be on the ballot. So it's not weakness to bid your time and take a strategic decision. If he stayed in the ADC, we are going to see that party not be in the ballot pronto. There is no argument about that because they have, orchestrated everything. The day that judgment was given, go and listen to the minister of the FCT, Nyesom Wike. When he spoke, you would think he was one of those Supreme Court judges. Wike was saying, well, let them not rejoice because they have not come out of the problem. They have to go back to the court. What does that mean? What does that tell you? A minister, the landlord of Abuja, the ones who built houses for judges in Abuja, is telling you are not out of the woods. Unless we want all to pretend as if we are, children and we do not understand what is happening here. There is orchestrated plan, and that is what P2B is hinting in that tweet.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so we have to now head straight into the headlines. I mean, you have pretty much summarized the major story this morning, and that's what's on front and center of the Nation paper. Obi Kwankwaso join NDC. Straight to the Daily Times, 2027, ambition tears opposition apart as Obi Kwankwaso join NDC. I possible okay ticket. NRC condemns rising attacks on Abuja Kaduna trains, seeks community support. Also here, Nigeria's 16.26 trillion naira debt burden, a fiscal trap, experts warn. PDP Wabara set to constitute caretaker committee, conveys next meeting. Of course, moving on straight tonight, The Guardian. Opposition crumbles as Atiku takes Nigeria's crisis to global stage. NAP strikes terrorists, destroys Abasu Aiki's hideout in Katsina. World Press Freedom Day, Serap, NGE, HHRC demand safety, justice for journalists. Reps probe $4.6 billion HIV-TB funds. Extrajudicial killing, IGP assures arrest, prosecution of suspects. Federal government summons South African envoy over xenophobic attacks amid concerns about rights infringements. Niger Correctional Center transports inmates to court in tricycles amid vehicle breakdown. Moving on straight to Daily Sun. 2 ex-presidents behind Obi Kwankwaso's exit from ADC. Hope fades for petrol price crash as Hamas deadlock persists. Marketers fear fresh hike, refiners slam federal government. South Africans continue protests against foreigners today. Tinubu expresses sadness, orders close monitoring of events. APC primaries, NWC extends deadline as low purchase of forms hit party. Governors seize party structures. Cement makers' revenue threatened by rising energy bills. Experts ask federal government to fix power transport problems. Press Freedom Day, NGE, Serap decry attacks on journalists. And lastly here, Jigawa, Kano, Katsina top list of out-of-school children.
Nigerian Tribune. Obi Kwankwaso join ADC. NDC. I beg your pardon. Thank you. Why I left ADC, ex-LP presidential candidate. ADC releases timetable for primary elections, pegs. Presidential form at 100 million naira. Presidential governorship candidates to emerge through consensus, direct options. Nigeria sees mixed effects as Iran's peace move calms oil market. CPPE, LCCI call for reform to ease burden of power crisis. Outrage as commercial motorists reap commuters of despite CNG use. Gunmen kidnap 60-year-old man in Ibadan. Atiku to discuss Nigeria's security situation during U.S. visit. Strike. We stand with SANU, NASU, says ASU. Jigawa, Kano, Katsina, top list of out-of-school children. Makinde-Backed PDP moves to name caretaker committee today. Drums reconciliation invites INEC to neck meeting. Wabara led BOT insists party won't die. Vanguard. INEC deadline. Obi Kwankwaso trigger mass defections. Obi Kwankwaso, others join Dixon NDC brainstorming Abuja. Why we left ADC, says Obi. You are a political nomad. Presidency mocks Obi. APC closes sales of farms today. Some lawyer, two parties coalition demands INEC probe of APM NDC. That's oil bad loans holds UBA First Bank Access Bank dividend payments as banking sector stability threatened. Delta, Okowa, Nwoko, Omar Gege, others in rumble for APC Senate tickets. Power sector crisis, band regime collapses, disco's misdelivery targets. NGE Sirab to Tinubu governors, protect journalists and insecurity impunity. Outrage over attacks on Nigerians in South Africa. Nigeria allowed citizens of xenophobic protest today. Efficiency becomes the new growth frontier for assets holdings. I'm moving over to Daily Trust. 2027 calculations shift as Obi Kwankwaso join NDC. And big infographic right here says the Renaissance movement for Tinubu Yari. This road is familiar. Moving over to New Telegraph. Big infographic right here. The Renaissance movement for Tinubu Yari. This road is familiar. Xenophobic tension. 130 Nigerians apply to leave SA. 2027, Obi Kwankwaso formally join NDC. And lastly, we won't negotiate with bandits, Northwest governors. Let's go.
All right, Mazi, I mean, really interesting stories here. Issues concerning the xenophobic attacks on Nigerians in South Africa, and also what you led with concerning the move from Obi Kwankwaso to NDC. Now, Mazi, we understand that Obi also did come under a lot of pressure, people saying he had to do this before a certain time. How optimistic are you that NDC is the party that would give Obi the safety net that he needs to at least contest for the 2027 elections? How sure are you that NDC would not in itself be compromised now that we're seeing concerns on the sidelines about breach of process and its formulation, according to some reports that emerged last night? How optimistic are you, Mazi?
Well, no one could be certain who is going to leave the earth the next day. So if you go by that premise, one would assume that having carefully looked at the issues regarding registration and spoken to those who are behind the party and had certain agreements, that in my view should be clear and there should be enough to give us the certainty. But again, the government, they control the judiciary, they do everything. If they again decide to come here and cause more havoc, it's be open to everyone. It will be visible to everyone to see that we know what they did in Labour. And the moment he left Labour, everything became, calm. How can it be that the Supreme Court gives judgment and people pretend that they do not know what that judgment means and, cause more trouble till the point that he left and things became calm? Then in the ADC, we have seen it. Now here we are in the NDC. Therefore, I think that within the NDC, that the right T's and the are be crossed and the I's dotted.
All right. And now there are some people that have come to mock Peter Obi, saying that, 3 political parties, and talking about his stay in LP, then ADC, then NDC. And despite that, he says he's not desperate to be president. How would you respond to the criticism that he has received as a result of all of this shifting of political parties?
These are political season. I do not expect anything different. But you have to know that there is an Igbo adage that said, meaning in literally translation, that when the butterfly learns to perch, to fly without perching, the hunter must learn to shoot without aiming. That is actually what I think explains this. Those that are saying that what they want is that they remove him from being on the ballot, and that is very simple. Then he is saying to them, and he has assured many, his followers, saying, in 2027, I'm going to be on the ballot, because he understood the game. And because he understood what they are trying to do, they are trying to stop him. He's trying to refuse to be stopped. So, I mean, they can conjure anything that they want to conjure. But again, I put this blame on the current government in power, who is so afraid of what the Nigerian youth and those who are hungry, those who are angry with the way and manner they have governed in the last 3 years, rather than basically govern. All of us, we live here. You see what they have been doing. So it's not for me to begin to outline their failures here.
Okay, let me bring your attention to this. This from New Telegraph, right? 2027 will be Kwankwaso formally join NDC. But where I want to go to is presidential nomination. Global Forms. APC pegs at ADC, I beg your pardon, pegs at 100 million, 50 million naira. LP fixes 50 million naira and 25 million naira. Regarding a party that wants to come and survive, or a vehicle people wanted to ride on, to ameliorate the sufferings of the citizens in a country, ADC, sorry, I beg your pardon, pegged their presidential nomination form for 100 million naira, and the GOBA, I guess, 50 million naira, same as LP, 50 million and 2.5 thereabout. Can you try to break this down for us, and also what we're going to be expecting in NDC regarding their presidential and governorship, and also for the houses?
Now, one thing that is very clear is that it is, couple of weeks ago, when APC brought out their, the price of their presidential form, I wrote to one of them. I said, "Now, wow, it be as this thing bill 100 million naira just to buy a form." And yesterday, I was kind of, slightly disappointed that the ADC is towing that line. And the moment I saw that yesterday, I sent a note to some leaders within the NDC, and I said, this madness must not be copied, because this is absolutely madness, if you ask me. Now, what I then heard yesterday is that the House of Reps, for instance, in the NDC probably would hover around 5 to 6 million naira.
Okay.
And I said, even at that is still, if really, this is a call for service. Yes, the party needs money to run its affairs, but not not this humongous amount of money. So I think what we are expecting, and the manner many of us have really chipped in on this, and understanding His Excellency Peter Obi, when it comes to this, if he has direct influence, you can be rest assured that the amount the NDC is going to charge will be nowhere near the humongous amount outlined, or rather that you just read out moments ago.
Okay, I wasn't satisfied with the question I asked you earlier before we went on reading out the headlines, right? Because Peter Obi, I was going to ask you, is he really out of the woods? Has he tamed the evils, the ghost haunting him, all the way from LP, ADC, now moving to NDC? Do you think that this whole thing is going to die down naturally, and there won't be litigations or whatnot, or factions or whatnot coming into this new political vehicle he's trying to ride on? You said things haunting us. I would say they've been exorcised. With the evil spirit who've been cast and bind, and they're out. However, if new trouble is going to be fomented by the government, I do not speak for the government. I do not work in their strategic back room.
But moving forward, what, based on the things he has seen before he made that decision, the coast is clear. But what will happen next? I do not know what the government will do, or whether everything is now okay. But if you look at it from legal angle, yes, the coast is clear. From being a new entity that does not have any faction, yes, the coast is clear. From being something that Nigerians have accepted within 24 hours, yes, the coast is clear. But will the government eventually try to do one thing or the other, or conjure new crisis? I do not have those answers.
Okay, Peter Obi was called a political nomad by Bayo Onanuga. Is this a fair characterization on his person? And also, what does this say about the state of political parties in Nigeria, and tongues wagging and loosely talking regarding oppositions?
Well, I believe myself and Bayo probably mutually blocked ourselves on X. We no longer see each other's tweets, so I do not see what he writes anymore. But that's said, when I read Bayo Onanuga, Daniel Bwala, and a couple of them, I do not take heed to what they say. When they say that Peter Obi is a political nomad, and I ask, what was Tinubu? We know that he moved from the SDP. SDP still exists. He moved into the ACN. ACAC still exists. He moved into the ACN. ACN is dead, and now he's in the APC. So you moved into 4 political parties within this space, right? The opposed political party you started with still exists. So why didn't you stay back there and build that SDP? Now, if you look at the last 3 political parties of His Excellency Peter Obi, you will know that movement was orchestrated by these same individuals and their group that make this statement. They are the brain behind it. So it's like someone, you cause a trouble. You come out and you say, you throw a stone, you come out and say, I had a noise. They are the brains behind it. They are the ones doing it. So I do not take them serious, because what they are actually, the narrative that they've, strategically crafted and pushing is the same narrative crafted by them. And they are the ones pushing it by themselves. But again, even if when you want to take it on the face value, what has happened is still not far-fetched from what their own principle had done in the past.
I mean, it's quite shocking what's happening, Mazin Jenje, but we also have to look at, other issues affecting Nigerians. Now, the xenophobic attacks in South Africa seem to be continuing, with protests slated today, May 4th. The South Africans who are protesting are asking foreigners to leave their country, seen as, according to them, they are benefiting more from the system than they are. We also saw Bianca Odumegojukwu, who is now the Minister of Foreign Affairs, trying to summon the High Commissioner to have an engagement around this, but then the protests are still slated for today, increasing tensions for Nigerians who are away in South Africa, because these protests are expected to see a total shutdown of all the 9 provinces of South Africa. What's your take on the continued xenophobic attacks in South Africa?
Nigeria or Nigerians are actually not the largest in South Africa in terms of immigrants. You have the Zimbabweans, you have the Mozambicans, and there are a lot of, I think, about 4 or 5 nationalities that are before Nigeria. So this narrative is actually sometimes a little bit, on the lower band, to put it mildly. Now, what I see, and if you know Kelvin Black, the skit maker, had done back-to-back in the last 2 days skit about this. And what Nigerians should know is,
yes, I think we have lost Mazi, but he would definitely reconnect back. Oji.
Yeah.
Every other year, we see the same things, xenophobic attacks, this time not just against Nigerians, but foreigners as a whole. And it makes you worry about what the future of South Africa really is. If they're basically trying to look as if they don't appreciate foreigners in the country, always feeling like the foreigners are benefiting more from the system. I mean, what kind of diplomacy do you think would solve this problem? Because people have spoken, meetings have been held. Bianca at some point had to travel over there to go and try to douse tensions. And here we are again. I mean, what is it between South Africans, foreigners, and of course, specifically speaking, Nigerians?
I mean, this whole thing is a situation that is meant to be tackled by the government of South Africa, right? And also giving to the people the rightful needs. And also the people assimilating and work harder, right? You don't just sit back and wait for things to be handed to you. Yeah, you have a conducive environment. You have to now work for yourself and your family, not just stay back. So foreigners that come into the country and wanting more for themselves and all that, right? Hustling and all that, and going out there to put in work, you don't blame them. And you're sitting back every time saying that foreigners are taking your jobs. Why not upgrade yourself, your sense, your whatever, your education, whatnot, and go forth for these jobs, right? You don't blame them. Then Nigerians always been the soft target. We're not the largest in that country. Is a problem from our nation, because if our nation and our government works well for the people, I don't see why South Africans will always, be haunting Nigerians. Why? Because they know that your government wouldn't do anything. Literally, they go online and see how messy the country is and how the citizens are being treated. And this is the same thing we're experiencing outside too.
I mean, that's a major concern. Mazi, are you back with us? Mazi Njenje?
Yes, I am here.
Yeah,
yes,
we did lose you for a second. So you painted a very important picture of the fact that Nigerians are not the only foreigners there. And of course, there are lots of other foreigners as well. What do you think would lead to an end to this? Because we've seen diplomatic engagement upon diplomatic engagement and still nothing is changing. So what's the solution? Is it because of how Nigerians are being treated in their own country that others feel they can treat us just as bad?
No, because it's not only, in as much as, because we are Nigerians, we tend to hear this more here, but that is not only on the xenophobic attacks, not only on Nigerians. Now, I think the South African society has a very fundamental problem that they've got on their hand. If you look at the population breakdown, South Africa has about, I think, 5.1% of foreigners in their country. So that's less than 10%. If you look at UAE has even more people than their indigenous people, right? So when you look at it, you say that South Africans are the problem here, because what are they attacking? The things that they are attacking are entities and businesses built by non-indigens, not with government money, not with government grants, but with their own resources. So, it's marks of just laziness. Sorry, I mean, it has to be said. It's marks of laziness for someone to wake up and say, you are taking our jobs. No, the job that you created yourself. Because in these businesses, these people pay taxes. Absolutely. Right? Because, I mean, it is really, really heartbreaking to see what is happening in South Africa, because, they attack Nigerians, they attack, sometimes Zimbabweans, they attack, the Congolese as well. So it's not only about Nigeria, but South Africa has got a problem. And I'm glad that the Foreign Affairs Minister is now, taking bold steps to summon the South African, Foreign Minister to say, come on, these things, we need to get a grip on it. Recall that before the NSAS, or rather almost the same period of time we had NSAS, this thing happened. At some point, Nigerians took laws into their hands. So South Africans shouldn't think that there are no South Africans in Nigerians. And I'm not saying that Nigerians should take laws into their own hands. But again, they must know that they do not have the monopoly of madness. Nigerians also can react if need be. But I hope by the intervention of the Foreign Affairs Ministry and the Minister of Foreign Affairs, that diplomatic channels will be opened, and that the President of South Africa, with his cabinet, can actually nip this in the bud before it escalates, because it's not going to augur well for South Africans when other nations begin to treat them the way they are treating foreigners in their own country. I
really like the saying that, they don't have the monopoly of madness. That's something we should quote and, put your picture next to. You don't have monopoly of madness. As always, strong words from you, Mazi. Strong words from you. So let's turn our attention straight to the press release by the Nigerian Railway Corporation. Of course, that's also front and center of some of our dailies. Now, NRC is condemning the repeated attacks on trains, calling for community support for the railway system. Now, this particular incident occurred around, according to the statement, kilometer 177 along the Abuja-Kaduna rail corridor, where some unknown persons reportedly gathered along the rail track and began pelting stones at a moving train, leading to damage to the windscreen of the leading locomotive. The corporation is asking for more community support and for basically to spotlight what's happening with the railway system. What's your take on this statement by NRC and how we treat crucial public infrastructure?
Rail attack is not specific to Nigerians. Even in the, I recall, even in the United Kingdom, they have what they call the almost like the rail police or the metro police, people who are in charge of the rail lines, and they have CCTV cameras. Those CCTV cameras are not there to capture people going on a picnic. They were there to capture those who may want to vandalize those public properties. Now, the difference here is that if you are caught trying to do damage to public infrastructure, now it is also treated as a security risk and even sometimes as terror-related incident, and you are punished severely. In our case, I am not aware where individuals who we have seen videos where people will go and remove the bolts and nuts of the rail tracks, and eventually some of them are captured. You see the manhole cover around Abuja that's been removed. I have not seen them severely, keyword here, severely punished. That when the next person hears that this thing can be sold or this thing can be removed, then they should be on their heels. Now, without making excuses for for anyone here, one thing is very clear that these are areas sometimes they could be soft targets, places where we do not have human habitation, that they could go easily there to run this. But many of us in the past had called for government to get serious, put and install in those areas CCTVs, and can also sometimes maybe use drone to, basically for surveillance purposes. So if government is serious in some areas, they should step up their game, because this is about human life. If people go and take those materials out, they are going to cause death, and and lives will be lost in this sense. Therefore, I think NRC issuing statement, in my view, not enough. They have to step up the game in terms of securing these rail lines. And also, Nigerians, if you see something, say something. If you see someone tampering with these infrastructures, because what people sometimes don't know is that you do not know who's going to be on that train when that tragedy strikes. It could be someone related to you. It could be a friend of yours that might be on that train when that tragedy strikes. So it's our collective duty to protect public infrastructures.
All right, Mazi, thank you so much for your time this morning on the show. As always, you have come with great analysis and insights, and we hope that the right people listen and do, in fact, what you are calling for. Thank you once again, Mazi, for joining us.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
All right, now shocking news reaching us this morning suggests that the former College of International International College of Nursing Sciences student, former because she has in fact left the school following her indefinite suspension, Joy Ezugu, has been arrested. She has been arrested according to reports reaching us, and the people who arrested her, the officers, said that they came from Force Headquarters Annex. Now, according to Joy, she was able to recognize one person in the group that arrested her from her school, from International College of Nursing Sciences. She was able to recognize one person from her school, and that essentially we're not sure who ordered the arrest. But right now, she is in the custody of Force Headquarters Annex Enugu for unclear reasons. Now, if you would recall, she was essentially transferred from that school to safer ground by Educare boss Alex Onia. And now we have received this shocking information that she has been arrested by operatives from Force Headquarters Annex Enugu by yet to be identified person who ordered the arrest, although she was able to recognize one person from the group that came from her school as the International College of Nursing Science. In the course of today's program, surely we would have more details on that as we hope for more clarity as to what could have led to her purported arrest and for what reason exactly. We'll go on a quick break, and when the show returns, we'll turn our attention to regional stories as we continue to follow up on developments in Joy Ezugu's case. The show returns shortly. Stay tuned.